Chapter 6. I learned how disgusting Satyr Cheese is. After the incident with Clarice, I was kind of over Camp Halfway, but I knew that if the camp was like other overnight camps, you weren't allowed to just leave. I decided to ask Luke about it and see if I could get more information. So, Luke, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, someone besides me wanted to leave here before the end of the summer, I said. A completely hypothetical person who is definitely not me. How would that work? Well, I've never actually seen somebody leave before the end of summer, said Luke. But I assume if someone had a good excuse, like if they were sick or something, the camp would consider it. I started coughing loudly. Don't stand too close, I said. I think I might have the bird flu. Gnarly, said Luke. I should add, however, that for certain campers, the rules for leaving are different. Campers like you and me can never leave, even when summer's over. What? I said. Never? Why not? Once monsters identify you as a halfwit, it's too dangerous to be in the outside world, said Luke. Clearly, since you were attacked by both Mrs. Dodds and the Minotaur, they figured you out. You're a halfwit. So, I can never leave? There's absolutely no way possible? Luke hesitated. Well, there is technically one way, he said. You could go on a quest. Sounds good to me, I said. Where can I apply? You don't apply. They just choose you, he said. But even if you could apply, I'm not sure you'd want to. A quest involves being sent to the outside world to perform some really dangerous mission. And I do mean really dangerous. Nobody's ever completed a quest and made back alive. It was clear that this was the standard speech but given to a camper who asked about leaving. The camp didn't want campers to leave, because then the camp would have to refund their camp fees. So they just told campers it was too dangerous to leave, and the campers then inevitably decided to stay. I wanted to ask Luke more about leaving, but a horn blew in the distance. Capital 11, line up for dinner, said Luke. And the other kids got into a single file, and we headed out to the mess hall pavilion. The pavilion consisted of a large number of picnic tables surrounding a central fire. I sat down next to Grover, and a parade of service brought us platters of amazing food. Cheeseburgers, strawberries, fried chicken, shrimp, steak, hot fudge sundaes, and everything else one could possibly want. The servers then gave everyone an empty glass and walked away. I waited for them to return and pour something into the glass, but no one came. You guys got something against beverages? I asked Grover. Speak to it, said Grover, pointing at the glass. Whatever you want, as long as it's not alcoholic. Cherry Coke, I said. The glass filled with cherry Coke. I wasn't sure how they were pulling off the trick, but I wasn't complaining. Then I had an idea. Pineapple Coke! I didn't think such a thing existed, but I figured I'd take a shot. The Coke turned yellow, and I tasted it. Perfect pineapple Coke! But then I have an even better idea. Half pineapple Coke, half blueberry Coke! The liquid transformed so that it had alternating yellow and blue stripes. I took a sip. Wow! An amazing mix of pineapple and blueberry Cokey goodness! But was this really the best choice? I had another idea. 35% chocolate Coke, 10% pineapple Sprite, and 55% Sunny Delight. No, wait. Make that 8% pineapple Sprite and 57% Sunny Delight. The liquid seemed to hesitate for a moment, but then mixed itself up and transformed into a multicolored mix. I tasted it. OMG! It tasted just like you imagine a mix of chocolate Coke, pineapple Sprite, and Sunny D would taste! But then I realized there was an even better option! 5% pineapple Coke, 5% pineapple Pepsi, 10% chocolate Sunny Delight, 5% Coke flavored Mr. Pibb, 10% half root beer, half orange soda, 5%. Hey, Percy! You coming or what? Said Grover. I looked up to realize the entire camp had lined up at the fire with their plates of food. I took my plate and got into line behind Grover. What are we doing? I said. We're making a sacrifice to the gods, he said. I then saw what he meant. All the campers were dumping their entire plates of food into the fire. Wait, if we dump all the food in the fire, what do we eat? I asked. Satyr cheese, silly, said Grover. Tonight it's the batch that was made from my milk. I noticed the server is placing a single large plate of cheese on each plate. I quickly stuck my finger into my mashed potatoes. Oops, I accidentally touched my food, I said. I'm sure the gods won't want now. I'll just go down and eat so we won't waste it. I sat down again and got ready to dig in, but just as I was about to take my first bite, there was a huge roar of thunder, and the entire camp looked at me angrily. Can I at least taste the lasagna? I asked. A few minutes later, I was still trying to force myself to take my first bite of Satyr cheese when Kyron pounded his hoof to get everyone's attention, and Mr. D stood up. Hello, campers. Hope you're enjoying a wine-free meal, said Mr. D. I'm sure the atmosphere is just as fun, lively, and festive as it would be without wine. I just want to remind you that the big Capture the Flag game is on Friday. I'd offer to make a toast or something, but there's no wine. He sat down. Capture the Flag? What was this, 1960? The only time I'd ever heard of Capture the Flag was in YA novels, when the middle-aged author needed a cool activity that involved all the characters, but was so out of touch that all he or she could come up with was Capture the Flag. Dinner ended, and we walked back to our cabins. The first day at Camp Halfway had worn me out, so I headed straight for my sleeping bag and quickly fell asleep. My sleep wasn't restful, however, because I was having this nightmare in which I was in prison with a bunch of crazy people. Oh wait, that wasn't a nightmare. It was actually happening! Chapter 7. We Capture the Flag. Whatever that means. Over the next few days, while I was trying to figure out how to get out of Camp Halfwood, the counselors were trying to figure out who my godparent was. To do this, they had to rotate me through various camp activities. The problem was, I wasn't good at any of them. I didn't swim well like a son of Poseidon. My archery skills were nowhere near Artemis worthy, and I wasn't a loser who only oversaw traveling like Hermes. Then I had my first sword fighting lesson. I thought it was a bit odd that a summer camp had sword fighting as an activity. But then I realized that it couldn't be any more dangerous than giving untrained 10-year-olds bows and arrows, which Kent had been doing for years. My sword fighting class was taught by Luke. Everyone in the class had a regular sparring partner, but since I was new, Luke said he'd be my partner for the day. Obviously, I'd never used a sword before. In the initial sparring session, Luke completely pummeled me. My entire body felt like one giant bruise. Luke then called the class together and said he was going to use me to help demonstrate a disarming maneuver. Okay, everyone. I want you to watch how I twist Percy's blade with my own sword, so he has no choice but to drop it, said Luke. I was obviously supposed to play along and just drop the sword when Luke did the maneuver, but I was sick of being used as a punching bag, so when Luke twisted my sword, I held on to it instead of dropping it. Luke scowled at me and twisted my sword even harder, and pain shot up my arms. I was about to let the sword go when I got the tingling sensation again. The same tingling I'd had in the bathroom with Clarice. And then, I farted. Or maybe I should say, mega farted. It felt like a tornado was coming out of my butt. A huge gust blew and knocked Luke's sword out of his hands, and the sword flew through the air and landed 50 yards away. Beginner's luck, said one of the campers. More like beginner's fart, said another, and they all laughed. Luke glared at them disapprovingly. Instead of laughing, maybe you should be taking notes, he said, because that was the fart of a master. After sword fighting class, I was walking back to the cabins with Grover when it hit me that I'd never seen kids in several of the cabins. Hey, Grover, are some of the cabins empty? I said. Yep, 3 of them, he said. Why?
Well, one of them belongs to Artemis. She vowed to be a virgin forever.
Right, I said. I knew the real reason was probably that she needed a makeover.
How about the other two? The other two cabins belong to two of the big three gods, said Grover. You know what I mean by big three, right?
Yeah, of course, I said. But could you explain anyway? I like hearing how other people put it into words.
Well, Kronos was the original king of the gods, and he had three sons, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, said Grover. After the sons rose up and defeated Kronos, they divided the world up amongst themselves. Zeus got the sky, Poseidon got the seas, and Hades got the underworld. They're the big three. The two remaining empty cabins belong to Zeus and Poseidon. Hades doesn't have a cabin because he kind of does his own thing in the underworld.
But why are Zeus's and Poseidon's cabins empty?
Well, over the years, the big three started having more and more kids because each wanted to have more kids than the other, said Grover. It was kind of like an arms race. You know, the more kids you have, the more powerful supporters you have. But when modern judicial systems and child support got invented, the cost of having so many kids went through the roof. Not to mention all the gold digger girlfriends and their legal claims about how much money they would take, maintain the godlike lifestyle to which they are accustomed. The whole thing threatened to bankrupt the gods altogether. So 50 years ago, the big three reached an agreement to stop having kids. Did they stick to it? For the most part. But 20 years ago, Zeus had a daughter, and Hades got mad and sent monsters after her.
What happened to her? Grover put his head down. Wait a second. You were sent to protect her, weren't you? I said. Just like you were sent to protect me. And she didn't make it, right? Grover nodded sadly. I wanted to tell him he wasn't a bad keeper, but clearly he was a terrible keeper.
Well, we can't all be good at everything, I said. Have you thought maybe about a different field?
I hear they're hiring a lot of software developers recently. Grover shook his head.
The only thing I want to be is a keeper. My ancestors were keepers, and I'll either be that or nothing.
Well, good luck with that, I said. I figured I should change the subject.
So, you psyched for a capture the flag tomorrow? I have no idea what capture the flag is, he said.
Me neither, I said. The next day, all the campers gathered on the field for capture the flag. Our cabin, Hermes, was assigned to a team with Aphrodite, Demeter, and Athena. Chiron then called both teams together for an announcement.
Heroes, you know the rules, said Chiron. I won't go into them because the author hasn't played Capture the Flag since he was 8, and is only using it as a plot device to have a group activity in which all of the characters participate. Arm yourselves!
Chiron spread his hands, and a huge pile of weaponry appeared on the table in front of him. I had no idea what to take, but eventually Luke handed me a sword and a shield. The shield was huge and weighed like 100 pounds. I never understood shields. Supposedly they protect you from getting hit with a sword, but would you be getting hit with a sword if you weren't stuck holding a 100-pound shield? Shields probably weren't even a real thing. They were probably just made up by modern shield manufacturers to sell to collectors. After everyone grabbed their weapons, our team huddled up to talk strategy.
Anyone got any ideas? Said one of the Demeter kids.
I got an idea, I said. Annabeth and I will go way out in the woods where no one can see us.
And what do the rest of us do? Said the Demeter kid.
Capture their flag, duh, I said.
Hey, I just saw the perfect strategy, said Annabeth.
She proceeded to outline a complex plan that didn't mention me. Finally, she turned to me and said, Percy, you stand by the creek and do border patrol.
Border patrol?
Sounded like loser patrol. But I didn't have time to argue because Chiron blew the conch shell and the game began. I lugged my shield over to the creek, found a dry patch of moss, and lay down and took a nap. I started having this awesome dream where Annabeth told me she finally realized how amazing I was and wrapped her arms around me.
But when I woke up a few minutes later, it was Clarice's arms that were wrapped around me in a headlock, and I was surrounded by a bunch of Aries kids. I really don't see how beating me up is gonna help you guys get the flag, I said. You know, you're right, said Clarice. So we'll just have to make our own. She nodded at one of the Aries kids, who took out his sword and made a few quick slashes on my back. Ow! I said. A rectangular piece of my shirt fell to the ground, and Clarice picked it up. Looks like a flag to me, she said. I winced in pain. It felt like I had giant paper cuts all over my back. Ah, did little Percy get a boo-boo? Said Clarice. Here's a little first aid tip. Cuts heal twice as fast when covered with mud. She gave me a karate kick, and I fell back into a giant puddle of mud. All the Aries kids laughed, and I felt the icky sensation of mud seeping into my pants. But I also started feeling that familiar tingling feeling. And I bet you can guess what happened next. Yep, I farted. The mud puddle in which I was sitting started to swirl, and several columns of mud rose up from the puddle like geysers. Each column looked like an arm with a hand at the end. I then watched in amazement as the mud hands grabbed the Aries kids' weapons and used them to cut the Aries kids' pants off. The Aries kids all ran away screaming in their underwear. Seconds later, I heard whoops of joy and saw one of my teammates run by, holding the other team's flag. The rest of my team soon followed, and they mobbed the guy with the flag and gave him high fives. The game was over, I think. I'm not sure, because no one ever explained the rules to us. Nice work, border guard. It was Annabeth's voice, and it sounded like it was coming from right next to me. But I looked around, and I didn't see her anywhere. The air shimmered, and Annabeth materialized right next to me, holding a baseball cap as if she had just taken it off her head. Sorry, I forgot I was still wearing my cap of invisibility. Yikes! She had a cap that made her invisible. I hope she hadn't used it to sneak into my room the previous night and watch me spend hours staring at the only two pictures I had access to on her Facebook profile because we weren't friends yet. Great strategy you came up with, I said. You guys get the flag while I distract the other team by getting beat up. Hey, it worked, didn't it? She said. Yeah, worked in filling my pants with mud, I said. Suddenly, I heard a loud roar. I turned and saw a wild boar looking angrily at me. He probably wanted his mud puddle back. I tried to climb out of the puddle, but there was so much mud in my pants that my legs felt like lead weights. So I stood there helpless as the boar charged towards me. But right now, as his tusks were about to smash into me, 20 arrows plunged into the boar, and he vaporized in a cloud of dust. I looked over to see Chiron holding his bow. Phew, I said. Thanks for killing them. He's not dead, said Chiron. Monsters don't die. They just go away for a while. I thought. I wonder if that applies to my mom, too. Percy, you're wounded, said Annabeth, pointing to a large gash in my arm where the boar's horn had grazed me. Quick, make a fart! What? I said. Before you told me you didn't want me to fart. Trust me, she said. Sorry, guys. Don't blame me for this one, I said to everyone around me. And then I farted. A small cloud of gas came out, traveled up my body, and surrounded my injured arm. My wound began to close up, and within seconds, it was completely gone. The camp was all gassed. Look, folks, I'm not doing this, I said. None of the magical stuff you see at this camp is real. It's just an illusion designed to make you stay here longer and pay more camp fees. Go! Run away while your family still has disposable income. Nobody ran, though. They were all staring in awe at something above my head. Percy? Said Annabeth. I looked up and saw what appeared to be a green hologram hovering over me. The hologram was of a nose being held shut by 2 fingers. Your father, said Luke. It is determined, announced Chiron. All around me, the campers kneeled, even the Aries kids who hated me. Huh? I said. What's going on? Your father's Poseidon, said Annabeth. My father's not Poseidon, I said. I can't even tread water. Not Poseidon, said Annabeth. Poseidon's twin brother, Poseidon. Bringer of stink, forger of flatulence, cutter of cheese, said Chiron. All hail Percy Stinkson, son of the god of farts. Chapter 8. Somebody loses a phone. That afternoon, Chiron moved me to cabin 13. I'd originally been told there were only 12 cabins, but it turned out there was a secret cabin way at the end of camp which belonged to Poseidon. Why is Poseidon's cabin so far away? I asked Chiron as we made the long trek to the cabin. And why have I never even heard of this guy? Trust me, when you smell the cabin, you'll understand why it's so far away, said Chiron. As for why nobody talks about Poseidon, it's a bit of a touchy subject. Your father's been angry about it for centuries. Why? What happened? I said. Thousands of years ago, at one of the first councils of Olympus, where all the gods meet and make policy, the gods decided that humans would not be allowed to know about Poseidon. Wait, I'm confused, I said. The gods get to decide which gods humans know about? Of course, said Chiron. All the stories humans tell about the gods are divinely inspired. How else do you think humans come up with those stories? Do you think they just make them up? Well, yeah, thunder rumbled. Blah, 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 I shouted at the sky, then turned back to Chiron. So, anyway, why did the council not want humans to know about Poseidon, or Poseidon? The gods felt that Poseidon was a much less impressive figure than the other gods. Rather than inspiring fear and authority and respect, he'd inspire scorn and derision and undermine the god's authority. So the council voted 12-1 to prohibit humans from knowing about him. The one, of course, being Poseidon. I can see why Poseidon would be angry, I said. He's been mad about it ever since, said Chiron, and lately he's been more angry than ever. But that's a story for another day. By the way, you might want to put your gas mask on, because we've reached cabin 13. I looked and saw a cabin in the middle of the woods. Something about this cabin seemed different from the others, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Finally, I realized what it was. It wasn't the cabin that looked different, it was the trees surrounding it. Instead of normal trees, cabin 13 was surrounded by giant versions of those tree air fresheners you see in cars. An entire forest of them. Whoa, I said. Why do we still need gas masks with all those air freshener trees? But then the smell of cabin 13 hit us, and I had my answer. Chiron gagged and quickly put on his gas mask. But oddly, the smell didn't bother me. I actually liked the smell of cabin 13, because it smelled like home. If it's okay with you, Percy, I'm gonna let you give yourself the tour, said Chiron. There are clean sheets and towels in the closet. Enjoy your new home. He galloped off, gagging, and I went inside. The inside of the cabin looked pretty much like the Hermes cabin, except without the teeming mass of campers. I was excited to finally have some peace and quiet, and I sat down on a recliner, kicked my feet up, and grabbed a newspaper from the nearby table. My excitement was deflated, however, when I read the article on the front page. The Bull Dude and 2 others missing after a car accident. Local residents are distraught after Frank Minatorsky, known affectionately as the Bull Dude, went missing after a car accident on Tuesday. Minatorsky is a local fixture known for wearing a highly realistic bull mask and is frequently seen cheering on the Chicago Bulls at local sports bars. On Tuesday night, Minatorsky was walking home from a children's party where he was working as a one-man petting zoo when a car spun off the road near where he was walking. Minatorsky has not been seen since. Authorities urge anyone who sees a man with the head of a bull to contact them immediately. Also missing are the occupants of the car, Sally Stinkson and her 12-year-old son, Percy. Sally's husband, Gabe Ugliano, says there will be a funeral service for his. They will. Sally's husband, Gabe Ugliano, says there will be a funeral service for his Camaro at Ross Brothers Funeral Home on Friday at 3 p.m. In lieu of flowers, Ugliano asks that mourners send him 7-layer bean dip. I felt a twinge of sadness ring about my mom. I needed to figure out what exactly happened to her, and if there was any way to get it back. But first, and more urgently, I needed to get the mud out of my pants. The following morning, I was woken up early by a knock on the door. It was Grover, with a message that Mr. D wanted to see me. Mr. D wanted me in the morning because he had to leave camp and go somewhere in the afternoon. But I wasn't in any rush. I realized recently that since Mr. D's father was Zeus, and Zeus and Poseidon were brothers, that made me and Mr. D cousins. So I slept late and showed up at 12:30. After all, what was Mr. D going to do to me? I was family. When I got to the porch of the farmhouse, Mr. D was eating lunch with Kyron, and when he saw me, he looked at his watch angrily. "What up, cuz?" I said. "Percy, I may be your cousin." "Percy, I may be your cousin, but I'm still your camp director," said Mr. D. "Uh-huh," I said, grabbing half his sandwich from his plate and taking a bite. "Where you headed today? Anything fun?" I'm going to the beach," he said. "Wine Lovers Anonymous meeting. Got it," I said. "Percy, I want to meet with you today because we have a very important job for you," said Mr. D. "But since someone couldn't get up before noon, I can't stay to tell you about it, so Kyron will have to explain it in my absence. Have a lovely afternoon." Mr. D picked up one of the pinochle cards and waved his hand over it, and the card transformed into a "Hello, my name is" name tag with Mr. D written on it. Then he snapped his fingers and vanished. "So what's this job he was talking about?" I asked Kyron. I didn't like the sound of anything with the word job in it. "Percy, I know this is a lot to throw at you, especially since you just got here," said Kyron. "But the fate of the universe might be in your hands." "Sure, whatever," I said. Can you just tell me what the job is?" "Well, your quest, if you choose to take it." "Quest?" I said. "As in outside of camp?" "I'm in. But I haven't even told you what the quest is yet." "Doesn't matter," I said. "I'll take it. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go pack. Meet you at the gate in 15? "I like your enthusiasm, Percy," said Kyron, "but please, let me first outline exactly what the quest involves. I think it might be more dangerous than you're anticipating." "I'm all ears," I said, secretly pulling out my phone and beginning a game of video poker. "Recently, Zeus and your father Poseidon have gone in a big fight because something of Zeus's has gone missing." "Uh-huh," I said. 2 aces and 2 tens. Not bad. "Or should I say, something of Zeus's has been stolen." "Mm-hmm. Do I stick with 2 pair or try for 3 of a kind?" Then I noticed Kyron had stopped talking and was staring at me. "Are you even listening?" he said. "Sure," I said. "Zeus is mad at Poseidon because something got stolen." "And guess who Zeus thinks stole it?" he said. "Poseidon?" "Nope," he said, "but someone very close to Poseidon." "Hey, don't look at me," I said. I've never stolen anything." Kyron raised an eyebrow. "Okay, fine. One time, I downloaded a song illegally, but it was for my grandma." Kyron raised his other eyebrow. "Okay, fine. I've illegally downloaded a few songs." Kyron raised his eyebrows even more. "Okay, fine. I've illegally downloaded every song and TV show and movie I've watched to or listened to for the last 5 years." Kyron nodded. "But I didn't steal anything from Zeus," I said. "I don't think you did," said Kyron, "but Zeus does." So what got stolen anyway? His magic wand or whatever?" "His iPhone," said Kyron. "His iPhone? Why would you think I'd steal that?" "Zeus thinks Poseidon had you do it to get back at him," said Kyron. Zeus is the one who originally proposed that humans be prohibited from knowing about Poseidon, and Poseidon has never forgiven him for it. Fine. So Zeus thinks Poseidon had me steal his iPhone. What's the big deal? Why does that pose a threat to the universe? Zeus has given Poseidon until the summer solstice, which is next week, to get the phone back, said Chiron. If Zeus doesn't get his phone back by then, there's going to be a war. And believe me, war between the gods is not something you want to happen. But why does Zeus want to start a war over an iPhone? Just go buy another one. No big whoop. All of Zeus's contacts are on that phone, said Chiron, as well as all of his photos, his apps, and his app settings. He didn't back them up? What a moron! Thunder roared. Yeah, that's right. I said it, I said. So Zeus is going to start a war unless he gets his iPhone back? What am I supposed to do about it? Your quest is to find Zeus's iPhone before the summer solstice and return it to him. I had to admit, it was a neat story, even if it was completely made up. I'll find that phone, I promise, I said. Okay, time to pack. See you at the gate in 15. Hold on, Percy. There's one more important piece of information, said Chiron. We think the iPhone is in the other underworld with Hades. I heard a gasp and saw Grover, who'd been cleaning lunch plates off the table, trembling with fear. Hades? He said. Yes, said Chiron. We believe Hades stole the iPhone to start a war between Zeus and Poseidon. I struggled to keep myself from nodding off. This had now gotten worse than a biology lecture. Why does Hades want a war? Said Grover. Think about it, said Chiron. What happens when there's a war among the gods? Death and destruction on Earth. And where do all the dead humans go? To Hades in the underworld, said Grover. So war among the gods means more subjects and more power for Hades. I literally had to pinch myself to keep myself awake. So Percy, are you willing to go to the underworld and get the iPhone back from Hades? Asked Chiron. I'm down, I said, but I'll only go on one condition, that I'm allowed to bring someone with me, someone who will protect me and ensure the quest is successful. Grover smiled. Fine. Who would you like to take? Said Chiron. Annabeth, I said. Grover's smile disappeared. Taking Annabeth on my quest was the perfect plan, because my quest wasn't for an iPhone. My quest was to date Annabeth, and taking a road trip with her would give me the alone time I needed to seal the deal. I'm thinking it might be better if you brought Grover, said Chiron. Grover nodded furiously in agreement. Perhaps you could bring both him and Annabeth. I tried to give Chiron a subtle hint by taking a sneeze and shouting, Third wheel! But he didn't get it. It's settled then, said Chiron. Annabeth and Grover will both accompany you. Fine, I said. I was sure I could find a way to ditch a goat. Now can I go, Pack? Hang on. You don't even know how to get to the underworld yet, said Chiron. I think I can figure it out, I said. Just go down, right? You can't just go down from anywhere, said Chiron. You need to go down from a particular place, and that place is Los Angeles. A free trip to LA? Oh, this plan just got even better. Once I got Annabeth on a romantic walk on the beach under a full moon and palm trees, the rest would be a piece of cake. Los Angeles it is, then, I said. Although to be rested for my quest, I'll need to fly first class, of course. And note, business class is not first class. Unfortunately, there's no flying allowed on this quest, said Chiron. Have you forgotten that Zeus is the god of the sky? You don't want to try taking a plane when he's mad at you. Don't worry about Zeus, I said. It'll be perfectly safe to fly, because I'm friends with Shmus, with Shmoose, god of airplanes. Shmoose? Said Chiron dubiously. Yeah, Shmoose. Watch this. Hey, Shmoose, help me transform this can of Diet Coke. I picked up the can of Diet Coke Mr. D had been drinking and put my hand over the word diet. Oh my god, it's now Coke! I said. See, Shmoose has incredible powers. I'm sorry, Percy, but we've already bought a bus ticket for you, said Chiron. The bus? I said. For the first time, I wondered if I'd be able to survive the quest. Have you seen who actually rides the bus? Trust me, it's a lot scarier than the Minotaur. A quest requires courage, said Chiron. So, do you accept your quest? I thought about saying no, but then I thought about how Annabeth looked the other day wearing short shorts. I accept, I said, and ran off to pack. Chapter 9. I take the bus, and as usual, the experience is terrible. After we packed, I met Annabeth and Grover at the gate of Camp Hathaway. Chiron came over to see us off. I really wish we had more time to train you, Percy, said Chiron. Actually, I think the amount of time was quite enough, I said. Before you go, I have something to give you, said Chiron, and he handed me a pen. Gee, thanks, Chiron, I said. If I ever decide to give up phones and computers and start using pens, I'll be sure to use this. Take the cap off, said Chiron. I took off the cap, and the pen morphed into a warm, soft cylinder covered with foil. What is it? I asked. A bean burrito, said Chiron. Whenever you open the pen, it'll turn into a new one. I tore off some of the foil and took a bite. Tastes like a pen, I said. It's not for regular eating, said Chiron. It's a special burrito, designed to assist you when you're in danger. Its effects on your body are, shall we say, much greater than that of a normal bean burrito. Special or not, it tasted like garbage. You know what, Chiron? I think I'm good without the burrito pen, I said, and threw the burrito down the hill. Then my butt started feeling warm and spicy because the burrito was back in my pocket. The pen is impossible to lose, said Chiron. Nice feature, huh? Yeah, great, I thought. I get to have instant indigestion with me wherever I go. I recapped the burrito, and it became a pen again. Well, we probably should be off so we don't miss our bus, I said. The bus didn't leave for a couple of hours, but I was dying to get out of Camp Halfwit. I turned to leave, but then heard behind me, Hold on, wait! I looked back to see Luke running towards us. Wonderful. I just wanted to say bye to you guys, said Luke. Bye, I said, and turned again to leave. Just a sec. I have something for Annabeth, said Luke. He pulled out a photo of him and Annabeth and handed it to her. In case you get homesick, he said. Aww, said Annabeth. Can I get a goodbye hug? Bus. Leaving. Now, I said. They hugged anyway. And for you, Percy, I have this. Luke handed me a pair of socks. Great, a pair of socks, I said. This is a much better gift than, say, an awesome travel pillow. Maya! Shouted Luke, and the socks sprouted a pair of wings and flew into the air. But they were still socks. Here, Grover, hold on to these for me, I said, handing him the socks. I'm definitely not giving them to you permanently because it's not like I hate them or anything. I once again turned to leave. Okay, folks, time to hit the road. Oh, I almost forgot, said Chiron. Yes, I said, turning around again. Take this, said Chiron, and he handed me a sword. It only works against demons, not against half-wits or humans. I stabbed Luke with it, and it passed right through him like he wasn't even there. Darn. Chiron was right. Thanks for all the parting gifts, I said. We'll be back soon. And by soon, I mean never, I thought, as we headed out the gate toward the Tweeting taxi. I was so psyched to be finally out of Camp Halfwit. My travel companions, however, didn't share my enthusiasm. Grover kept jumping from window to window, nervously watching for monsters. And 10 minutes into the taxi ride, Annabeth said, I'm missing camp already, and pulled out the photo of her and Luke and stared at it. I tried to ignore her, but after 5 minutes of straight minutes of staring, I couldn't take it anymore, and threw the photo out the window. Hey, she said, why the heck did you do that? Don't worry, it's like the pen Karen gave me, I said. You can never lose it. She waited for a couple of minutes, but the photo didn't reappear. Must be defective, I said. I can't believe he gave you a defective photo. What a jerk. You should really find someone better to hang out with. A half hour later, the taxi crossed over a bridge and into Manhattan, and we ended up driving right down the street where my mom lived. Do you want to stop by and see your stepdad? Said Annabeth. We've got some time. No thanks, I said. Even just the mention of Gabe had got me upset. You know, your mom married him for you, said Grover. Huh? What are you talking about? I said. As the son of Poseidon, your farts have an extremely strong smell, said Grover. Monsters can detect us from miles away, and your mom knew this, so she married the smelliest guy she could find. Gabe's bathroom smells so strong, it covered up your own smell. That's the only thing that kept you hidden from the monsters for so long. If only that story were true, I thought. It was a lot better than thinking Mom married Gabe for his money, which I presumed was the real reason. But thankfully, it was time to stop thinking about Gabe, because we'd arrive at the bus station. My quest was about to begin. We boarded the bus for Los Angeles and grabbed some seats towards the back. As I watched the other passengers board the bus, I began to feel afraid. Not because I thought they were monsters sent to attack us, but because they were the usual monstrous people who took the bus anywhere. Had any of these people ever heard of personal grooming? Or showering? Or a diet? Finally, the driver closed the door, and the bus started to pull away. But then 3 passengers ran up to the bus, and the driver stopped and let them on. I knew immediately there was something up with them. They were dressed like business people and used language that actually followed grammatical rules. No normal person like this would ever go near a bus station, never mind actually take a bus. I figured maybe they were bus marshals, like the air marshals who flew undercover to protect airplane passengers. Grover, however, had a different opinion. They must be the Furies, said Grover. The Furies? I said. Yeah, the 3 worst monsters from the underworld, said Grover. Hades knows we're coming, and he's trying to stop us. Oh, great, I thought. This ship's gonna be 3,000 miles off. That person's a monster sent by Hades. I got out my noise-canceling headphones. The bus pulled away, and things were normal until the bus marshals, or at least the people I thought were bus marshals, announced they had to check our IDs and started moving down the aisles. I shuddered as I imagined the marshals recognizing me as the missing kid from the car crash and making me return to my apartment to live alone with Gabe. And with Mom not around, guess who'd be trying out the 7-layered bean dip? I can't let them capture me, I said. Yeah, because then Zeus will never get his iPhone back, said Gopher. Yeah, whatever, I said. Hey, Annabeth, can I borrow your hat? Sure, said Annabeth, and handed me the cap of invisibility. I put it on and disappeared, then began walking on people's heads and shoulders towards the front of the bus, right past the bus marshals. I was about to walk off the bus when I heard loud shrieking behind me. I turned back and to see that the bus marshals had transformed into weird gargoyle-like creatures with ugly female heads and the bodies of bats. Part of me was frightened, but part of me felt good knowing that the Department of Homeland Security had such powerful weapons to keep us safe. The gargoyle things looked at me and shrieked again. American, I said, pointing at myself. Oh, say, can you see? But singing the national anthem didn't satisfy them, but then they started moving towards me menacingly. Then I remembered Kyron's pen. I took off the cap, and the pen became a piping hot bean burrito. Hey, no food on the bus, said the bus driver, and reached for the burrito. Before he could grab it, I took a bite. I soon realized Kyron was right about this burrito having strong effects. The moment I swallowed, I felt like I had to take the biggest fart ever. I didn't want to fart with all these people around, so I held it in, and the pressure built and built. Finally, when it felt like I was going to burst, I had no choice but to let it rip. And it was like no fart I'd ever seen. When I say this fart exploded out of me, I'm not using a figure of speech. There was literally an explosion inside the bus. The pressure of the fart gas blew out all the windows in the top of the bus. and the top of the bus sailed 50 feet into the air. Fortunately, all the passengers were wearing their seatbelts, but the gargoyles were not, and they were blown out of the bus. As each one landed hundreds of yards away, it vaporized immediately into a cloud of dust. I guess this is one time we don't have to ask who farted, said Grover. Thanks for coming back with us, said Grover. You could have just run away and just saved yourself. I couldn't let her know the real reason I saved him instead of running away, which is that I liked her. Letting a girl know you like her too early is the easiest way of killing all possibility of ever dating her. So I just told Annabeth I'd saved them because they were my friends, or something. The bus driver got on the PA, which still sort of worked after the explosion, and said they'd be bringing in a bus to continue the trip. Another bus? Run! I told Grover and Annabeth, and we ran into the woods.